There could be like more hackathons in the Bay Area, but I will say that the biggest city to live in for hackathons would be Atlanta. I challenge for that. I don't think even you will find that many hackathons in Harvard and MIT. What do you think?
Hi everyone, for those new to my channel, I am Seeam, a rising senior and Bangladeshi student at Harvard University studying applied math. This series is a series where I interview amazing people from different universities all across the world, hoping to provide some guidance and inspiration to students who want to study at these universities sometime in the future. Today, we have in this interview, the very popular Harnoor Singh. This man right here was so generous to come onto my show. His channel is known as Sing in USA. I will provide the link in the description. And it has over 300,000 subscribers. This man is a legend. He will act humble, don't believe him. So Harnoor, why don't you introduce yourself?
So, hi guys, I'm Harnoor. I recently graduated as a grad student. I did my undergrad from Georgia State University as well, but now I graduated as a master's student from Georgia State University and feel honored to be on Seeam's show.
Thank you so much for being here. Today, we are going to generally discuss the differences in life for a student studying at Harvard and a student studying at Georgia State. I am studying applied math with a second year in computer science, and Harnoor graduated and finished his bachelor's and master's, as he said, in computer science. So there will be some similarities as we both come from STEM backgrounds. So let's start that discussion. Harnoor, why don't you start? What was your typical day looking like when you were in Georgia State?
Typical day, that will be hard to tell, but let's start with the morning first. So a typical morning of my life at GSU would look like I'll wake up in the morning, I'll check my phone, and if there is a posting for free food on the WhatsApp group, then I'll go there to have some breakfast. Otherwise, I'll just stay home and cook breakfast or have cereals and get ready, and then mainly go for my first class of the day. That will be either at 8 a.m. in the morning or 10 a.m. because I like classes early in the morning so that I can use my day later on for other activities like club activities, dance activities. I have also joined abs classes in my school and stuff like that. What about a typical morning at Harvard?
Okay, so I don't think I really represent the typical Harvard population in a sense that I kind of want to start my day late. By late, I will say later than 10:30 or 10. Oh. So I really like to wake up at 9 or 8:30 and kind of have the morning all to myself, where I do things like I work out, I have a good breakfast, I read a book, and that is kind of my own time before classes start in. And then when it's 10:30 or 11, I go to my first class, and then classes usually for me continue up to 3 p.m.-ish. But I like this place where I have the morning to myself, and I take that time to earn knowledge that I wouldn't have time to in a class, or basically do things that are very important but that are often neglected in the business of a college life, such as working out. But yeah, that was the morning for me.
Okay, pretty interesting. Now let's talk about the most interesting element of your day. So talking about my day, the most interesting element could be the abs class that I have recently joined in the school, because not during this time, but when I was in school, I used to go to abs class. That used to be Monday to Wednesday at 5 p.m. and I used to really enjoy that. Later on, there was another class that was kickboxing. I joined it like this semester itself, because before that I used to work out on my own, but using a trainer's help, I'm able to train myself in a better way. So that's why I really enjoy that. What about the best element at Harvard in a day?
That is a very difficult question. I think every day is kind of beautiful in its own sense, but keeping that in mind, I think one of the most exciting part of the day usually comes to me when I'm doing extracurricular activities. And let me tell you what kind of extracurricular activities I'm involved in. I usually teach a data science and programming class, and I'm involved with a management consulting club. So what the management consulting club does is that we are a group of students who help companies solve some of their most critical problems. And the club is doing very well. It's a 100-member club, and we earn a lot of revenue just as being a student club in the year. We take up 18 paid professional clients. And I think it's just crazy to think that we are full-time students at Harvard, but on the side, when we are free, we're legit running a management consulting club, and we're having Fortune 500 companies some of the times, big, very big nonprofits and NGOs taking our help and support to build their companies and solve their problems. So just like taking the time of the day aside to just think that fact that, hey, we're a group of students doing these crazy things is like an extremely exciting thing to me. For a lot of people, that is just another chore, or that is just another thing they have to do. But for me, I take a lot of excitement in doing that because I could not imagine another place where I could get that opportunity.
Wow. Okay. So what activity you think you could have only been able to do at Harvard as compared to any other campus?
Okay, that's a good question. I don't think there is a specific activity like that you wouldn't get at any other campus. I think college campuses are fairly similar in that regard. However, I would like to say is that the interactions with the people I got here have been very inspiring. And I think it's hard to kind of find that, in my biased opinion, of course, in other universities. So let me give an example. I once was sitting in the dining hall having just being myself, eating breakfast, not doing anything super exciting. And then a friend of mine comes and sit next to me. And we started talking. And later, at the end of the day, I got to know that he was a Forbes 30 under 30 even before joining Harvard at the age of 18. And that is crazy. According to him, he felt that he's not taking enough time for himself while running that organization. So Harvard to him was taking a break so that he could develop himself. And that was just crazy to me. And I think that is very common in Harvard in general. Every now and then you meet someone in the dining hall or in a casual encounter, and you ask them, oh, what do you do for fun? And then they would say, oh, I play chess for fun. And later you would get to know that that person is like a young chess prodigy or a young math prodigy who has been in the national math team since grade 7. And it's a crazy quality of interactions you get at Harvard. I think that is common across universities, but a part of me believes that the concentration or the probability of that happening is just more at Harvard. What would you say is the most unique thing at Georgia State, according to you?
I think the most unique part is diversity, because you can find students from across different background, different country, and different ages. So in my classroom, I have seen a student who is even 55 years old, 54 years old. In my team as a research assistant, when I was working as a cybersecurity researcher, there was a guy I was working with, and I never knew how old he was. He said, I am a college sophomore. So I would think he's 19 years old, right? And he kind of looked like that as well. But later on, in my last 2 weeks at college, before this pandemic happened, so I asked him, the random question popped up in the meeting of our cybersecurity research. And in that meeting, he said, I am 55 years old. I was shocked. How can that be possible? And later on, I got to know that in our classroom as well, there are a lot of students who are even beyond 60, because they later on want to pursue their undergrad, because there's no right age to learn, right? You can age at any point of your time. So that was one of the most unique facts that I got to know here. I'm not sure if this is possible at Harvard, but that's what I know for here.
It makes sense. I don't know if it is the same thing at Harvard, but I can imagine, I did meet a few students here and there who are spent 4 years at the military before joining Harvard and are 25, 26, but 55, that's another level. And I have not seen that at Harvard. It might be present. We talked about exciting things and things that we love about our universities. Let's talk about on-campus paid opportunities. So what is the scenario when it comes to on-campus paid opportunities at Georgia State?
So you can find all kinds of opportunities you can think of in terms of teaching assistantship, research assistantships, working in dining hall, working in library, working in research labs. Wherever you want to work, you will get an opportunity if you apply on time. So I got the opportunity to work in dining hall in my first semester for 1 week. Then got the opportunity to work as a teaching assistant, then research assistant that I did for most of the time, and then internships. So I believe that in Atlanta, the salaries range from around like $8.5 to around like $10 to $12 on campus, like on
Yes.
campus jobs, and off campus like software engineering internships. Those range from around $20 to around 30, 35. That's the max I've seen in Atlanta and this around this campus. What about at Harvard?
Okay, so I think we would be on the same page. I feel Harvard does offer opportunities across all types of sectors. So you can be working as a teaching assistant, you can be working as a research assistant for different labs, you can be working as a sales assistant for Harvard student agencies, which provides laundry services. You can be working at the dorm crew. So basically, you'll be a crew which goes to different rooms and clean their rooms when the students are not around. In my experience at Harvard, being an international student on full financial aid, I think I have had the experience of doing kind of everything. Like I've been a sales assistant at the laundry store. I have been a part of dorm crew, so we had to clean rooms when students left for vacation. And I have been research assistants and teaching assistants, starting from psychology labs to computer science classes. I think Cambridge in general is a rather expensive area. So the problem with that is that we tend to need more salary when it comes to these student part-time jobs. So I would say the typical salary for a student would be $12 to $15 and in that range, because of how expensive Cambridge is. And when it comes to getting jobs outside Harvard's campus, we do have this privilege, I would say, of having a very top-notch affiliated institutions around us. So when you're Harvard, in any position at MIT, any cross collaboration between Harvard and MIT, like the Broad Institute, or top hospitals like Boston Children's or Mass Gen are fair game. So I think those are the most common choices when it comes to outside campus jobs. And they do provide kind of the same range of salary, maybe a bit more, to account for the traveling you have to do. So I think they pay around $15 to $17. But this is the usual scenario when it comes to on-campus opportunities at Harvard.
So that makes sense. The opportunities are same, salaries are similar, but I think the probability of you getting a job must be much higher. It must be really, really easy for you to find any kind of job, any kind of opportunity all around the world, right?
Okay, so that is something I do get a few questions on. I wouldn't use the term easy. So here's how I would put it. When it comes to top companies, I think they do maintain a more solid presence on Harvard. So name any industry, and before the summer internship window kind of rolls in, almost all companies from every industry tries to recruit from Harvard, except Apple, I think. I think Apple is a bit stingy when it comes to Harvard, and we don't know why, but they just don't have a good presence on campus. So except Apple, you have in tech, Google, Facebook, you have in consulting, McKinsey, Bain, BCG, investment banks, all the bulge bracket investment banks, quantitative finance, I've named any industry, you have a solid representation on Harvard's campus. And I think that's an extremely, extremely privileged position to be in. However, I think it's challenging in a sense because at the end of the day, these institutions still take very few interns. So when it's coming to applying from Harvard, your competition will still be Harvard students. And sometimes in these top companies, they are applying to Harvard, but at the same time, 400 Harvard students are applying for 15 positions or 10 positions, and that becomes insanely competitive. And I think that is kind of the cons, that even when you're at Harvard, since you'll be competing with people who are of similar competency when it comes to extracurricular or work experience, you will face a very difficult time during internship as well. But we at least have the company presence on campus. So there is this pro and con situation that we have to think of. What about you? What was the scenario like in Georgia State?
Wow, I'm surprised to know that, but I will say at Georgia State University, competition is like even at the next level because we are in a public school. You're in a private university, and I'm in a public school. So there are like around 20 to 30,000 students all over the campus.
Wow.
So
Yes, crazy.
the class size could be even as big as 200, 300 students. And even at Georgia Tech, I attended class. There were like around 300 students or 200 plus students in Georgia Tech as well. But the thing is, if you have good connections, then you can definitely get a job. It's not that difficult either.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is that at the end of the day, it kind of boils down to you. There might be some privileges here and there that makes a difference, but the real difference comes from how you can leverage the resources around you. That's a good way of putting it. I had this question about the CS education that you got at Georgia State. What would you say would be the sentiment among students when it comes to getting a computer science degree from your university and how that kind of translates into job opportunities after you graduate?
So let me start with the Georgia State University's ranking in terms of innovation. So it's ranked 2 according to some sources in terms of innovation. So that brings its reputation to the next level. And the business school at GSU has one of the biggest reputation, ranked around 20 all over the US. Wow. that makes a big impact. So our perspective is more towards making great projects. So that's why we have 2 hackathons in a year, as compared to like average 1 hackathon in maybe Georgia Tech. At Harvard, you also have like 1 hackathon, but we have a lot of smaller hackathons in a semester and 2 big hackathons in a year. So you're getting more opportunities to participate in extracurricular activities in terms of coding competitions. And Georgia Tech is right next to our campus. Emory is right next to our campus. So I have attended probably like 15 hackathons being in Atlanta. So I would say that it will be probably really difficult to find similar opportunities even in even in like other cities. I think there could be like more hackathons in the Bay Area, but I will say that the biggest city to live in for hackathons would be Atlanta. I challenge for that. I don't think even you will find that many hackathons in Harvard and MIT. What do you think?
Okay, that's a really good take. I think the CS scenario at Harvard is kind of in a place that, okay, we have to improve to catch up to our neighbors. And you have MIT right next door, right? And I think Harvard is in this constant attempt of trying to catch up to the innovation or standard that MIT is setting a bar at. So that is one thing. When it comes to hackathons, I think the university's state of organizing hackathons don't come from like at a university level, but they come from individual individual steps that student groups or classes take. For instance, we do have a big hackathon coming from CS 50 every year, which is like the biggest, most popular introductory computer science course in the world. And there are a few groups here and there. Hack MIT takes a lot of candidates from Harvard, and like a lot of opportunities just because they're at MIT are opportunities that we get access to as well. So I think one of the biggest upsides about being at Harvard studying CS is that apart from the very good quality education you also get access to quality of education at MIT. But I think I find it very interesting that your take on the hackathon scenario at Atlanta, and I'm really curious. I will definitely look into it more. I have a few friends who came from different universities at Hack Harvard, and they were kind of disappointed because they found better hackathons elsewhere. So I think I will believe your statement on that, and I will look at those hackathons to see what the hype is really about.
Sure, and I would also challenge you that our neighbor Georgia Tech has been like the winner in terms of MLH points. So like the maximum award given to Georgia Tech students in like winning in a bunch of hackathons all over North America is the highest in the last 3 years. So Georgia Tech is winning in that. So we are like together and we go around and move around to different places in hackathons. So we win in that once again.
100%. During the summer, I work at IBM's Chief Analytics Office, and I think a lot of our recruiting efforts try to take students from Georgia Tech. I have had a lot of colleagues from Georgia Tech, and they're just so gifted when it comes to technical skills. So I 100% believe where you're coming from. So we have talked about everything there is to know between life at Harvard and Georgia State, and I think we had a crazy conversation so far. I really enjoyed it. But let's talk over one key thing, which is life after graduation. Now, disclaimer, I have not graduated yet, so I don't have any data on this, but you have. So here's what we will do. We're gonna talk about how your life is after graduation, socially, financially, which industry you're working on, and how your alumni network or other Georgia State resources are helping you. And maybe a few months or years from now, I could come over to your show and talk about the experience I have had having graduated from Harvard.
Sure. So I believe that university doesn't play that big role in terms of like opportunities and salaries, but in terms of salary packages that I've seen from Georgia State University, they could be as high as 160K in like the East Coast, and in West Case even up to like 200K that I've seen for sure.
Wow, you're rolling in money.
But that's the max I've seen. But the averages might be low. I'm not making as much because I mean it depends on the student, right? If you use this university as a trampoline, if you jump harder, if you like work harder, then you will like reach up.
Yeah.
So it's like a platform. Even at Harvard, I believe like even if you are at Harvard, that doesn't mean you will be guaranteed a 250K package. It's just a trampoline. If you are like working harder, let's compare it like this way, right? You're at Harvard, like a little bit ahead, and I'm at here. So if I jump a little bit harder, I can exceed that expectation because it's a trampoline below me. So that's how I think. So I don't think being from Harvard or being from Georgia State, it will not make a difference in the end, but you can definitely achieve your goals. You can definitely reach at a good financial situation or in terms of career growth, being from irrespective of any university.
I think I 100% agree with that. I have to acknowledge that there is a small advantage you would get, I imagine, coming from a prestigious university as Harvard, but at the same time, I really agree with what you said. There are countless research that have showed that your university degree doesn't really correlate that much with your performance in your career. So I 100% agree. That is the first time someone gave that analogy of a trampoline to me. And I think I really found it really amusing and at the same time insightful. So thank you for that. I'm glad to know that you will confirm this, that students, when you go out there, it's really up to you to what you can do in your life. And that is so inspiring. I love it coming from you. I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much once again for being on this interview. It's really a privilege for me to have a YouTuber as famous as you here. If people did not see his channel, it's an amazing channel for international students to get an insight of what it's like to study in the US, what are different opportunities and career pathways you have. And his channel is really for everyone. That's why it has over 300,000 subscribers. But if you haven't checked it, link is in the description. Do check his channel out and give him a thanks anytime you meet in the comment section if you found his advice insightful at all.